Hello, everybody. I will be talking about this particular eclipse, total lunar eclipse, which is taking place 15th to 16th of early morning of the 16th of May. This is exceptional, very interesting eclipse. I spoke briefly in the previous video about this particular two eclipses, one on the 30th of April and one happening now. But this particular eclipse deserves special attention for some reasons. I will give you the technical meaning, the astronomical placements and meanings of this eclipse happening now. And I will also tell you, according to the ancient Babylonian cuneiform tablets, some ominous texts. I will tell you their meanings, and then you will be able to make your own conclusions from there. So I will share in a moment my screen with you to show you the horoscope of this eclipse so that you can see exactly its placement. It's very interesting placement. Now, this is the last eclipse from this series of eclipses which took place on the axis of Scorpio Taurus. This eclipse started in 2020. We had eclipses in 2020 happening on the money axis, most potent, powerful money axis of Scorpio Taurus. Also, we had eclipses in Sagittarius, Gemini, but this particular axis was affected. In last year, all 4 eclipses took place in the very same axis, and this is the of Taurus Scorpio, and this is the very last eclipse of this series. So it is happening, total lunar eclipse. It happens always when the moon and the sun are in perfect opposition, of course. It happens in the very first degree of Taurus and the very first degree of Scorpio, like the moon is in the first degree of Scorpio and the sun is in the first degree of Taurus. So exactly the very potent axis of money, and not only money, but this is axis of also food. It is also beauty, power. It is such potent kingship even, because you have these 2 royal stars on this very potent axis of Scorpio Taurus. But I will tell you something else. The sun is in the first degrees of Taurus, where you have Algol. This is the Medusa, Gorgona head. I have separate video on the meaning of this star, very important star. Now, this star has different phases, and nobody will tell you about this because this information is not available and it's very hard to calculate the phases of Algol. Now, this is a binary star, and it can be very benevolent, and according to Hermes, when on a key position in the horoscope, can denote abundance, money, power, but can also be very malefic when Algol is deemed invisible. And this is the case now. The phase of the star is such that it is not as benevolent as we want because the star is invisible. What this will give, we can think together. In a moment I will tell you. But in the same moment, the moon is in her fallen, debilitated position. Actually, here I want to open a bracket because the moon cannot be debilitated really, because the moon is very fast, stays only 3 maximum days in one sign and always gives something very specific. So the moon cannot be fallen and debilitated, but it's very intense anyhow placement of the moon in Scorpio. But the whole axis is very special. Let me share my screen with you, and then I will be telling you what I think this means. So look what is happening. We have the sun in the first degree of Taurus and the moon in the first degrees of Scorpio, like I told you. And in the same moment, you have this very wide, but still conjunction by a sign of Saturn and Mars. This eclipse will be very important. It will certainly trigger important events. Now, what is also happening? Whatever the events are, and we'll be reasoning now about this, Jupiter and Venus make harmonious aspect to the sun, and trine, again, harmonious aspect to the moon. And there is this ancient rule of eclipses that when benevolent planet is watching, the evil is destroyed. So, but of course, it won't be very easy because in the same moment we have two malefic planets watching as well. Now, what is this axis of Taurus Scorpio meaning? And the fallen moon. First, we have Algol, which is a star that when in malefic difficult phase that I just explained you about, the star can give literally craziness, can give crazy and very sad events. Now the sun is here, so the sun do not necessarily rule, you know, the people. The sun, the moon is representing the people which are in their fallen position. So certainly this is not giving powers to the people and can lead to certain confusions. But also the good side of Scorpio is the amazing true knowledge which the Scorpion is reviewing. Amazing true knowledge, reviewing truth, reviewing amazing knowledge. But the sun can also be bad sign for those that rule, because you see, naturally, of course, in the zodiac, the sun is ruling the 5th house. It will certainly have influence on finances, and temporarily this eclipse may further the inflation and the economic crisis which is happening to the world. But this can be very tragic for a ruling power, for somebody who is ruling. There could be indeed and you see the square of Saturn and Mars will further this the war scam, because I will bring you back to something. You see, if you, I don't know, probably you remember, I was telling you that this time, when the course of Mars promised us certain health issues for the world, the next appearance of Mars, which happened last month of the year of 2021, happened in Scorpio to reinforce the idea of hostilities, eventually war. And this moon will reinforce this idea. It will be like triggering some tragic events which we'll be witnessing in relation to the war. But on the other hand, it will be associated with something good, and those that try to impose and play, because you know, there is this military term which is theater of the war. How they call it? Theater of the war, or something like that. Probably you know better the term. So those that play the theater for us, of course, people suffer, certainly very, very sadly, very, very dramatically, will try to further and worsen the war situation. But here you have the good aspect of Jupiter and Venus, which will not allow them to go and do extremes. So this is good, but this will further the economic crisis for the world. But for the last time, it's like mission completed. And then we have another eclipses which will have totally different influence, but for them another time, because this cycle of eclipses in Taurus Scorpio for now is closing. So you can see there will be a lot of, somebody will suffer his or her head on a high position. Certainly finances will be involved, and the world theater will enhance the inflation. And also, like I'm telling you, lots of truth, further awakening will be happening, and truth will be revealed, and true knowledge will come, because knowledge never disappears. Doesn't matter how many libraries they will burn, knowledge never, it's waiting for us to be ready to find it. So knowledge never disappears. So saying this, of course, let me tell you another thing which I forgot. Let's not forget that the horoscope of America has descendant Taurus Scorpio, and the moon of UK is also in this key axis. So certainly these key powers in the world are going to suffer a lot from this eclipse and their economies, which of course has impact on the other countries' economies. This we already see. So probably nothing new, I'm telling you, but this will be furthered. But again, they will not manage to implement the total evil because of this Jupiter and Venus watching in their best of powers position. Look, Jupiter in the beautiful Pisces ruling it, and then you have Venus in her beautiful sign of exaltation. So don't be so worried. Now let me tell you further. I'm stopping the sharing to tell you further the Babylonian perspective here, because it's very, very interesting. Now, the eclipse is happening in the month of, one second, forgot the name, the month of Ayar, which is representing ancient Elam. In the Babylonian mythological stories, ancient Elam is corresponding to the contemporary Russia. And then listen further. It is happening on the 14th lunar day. Eclipse is happening exactly on the 14th lunar day. Yes, the 14th lunar day is represented by Elam. And guess who is ruling Elam, who is representing in our contemporary geographical positions Elam? This is Russia. And in the previous eclipses, which took place in 2021, you can look at them. I was telling you that there will be something very seriously related to Russia, because again, eclipses were pointing towards Russia. But how? More interesting is exactly how. First of all, let me see what I have. Now, the eclipse is happening in the early morning and is completing the first watch. And here I will just open one bracket to tell you what is this watch. You know, the Babylonians would divide the day and the night into equal parts, and then these parts were called watch. And this way they would read the eclipses, in which watch the eclipse happens, whether it completes the watch, and so on. So eclipse is happening on the first watch, and it normally should complete it because it's a total lunar eclipse. Completing the first watch of the first eclipse, the first watch means that the sick will become well. People will recover, meaning if, let's say, you have on a key position Taurus, Scorpio, if you have Moon in Taurus, Sun in Scorpio, or if this is a key position in your horoscope, meaning you will recover. But in general, for the world, it means that the topic will not be the main topic for the world as a result of this eclipse. And eclipses, which took place also in 2021, will not be disease like it was. It will not be disease. Now, again, to remind you, I am not looking from the modern perspective. No way. The eclipses, I'm looking at the most ancient astrological data, and this is the ancient Babylonian Sumerian astrology, and I'm using the cuneiform tablets and their omens. So it is really very ancient source of information, and we draw from there our own conclusions. When eclipse is happening in the first watch, the duration, meaning the influence of this eclipse from the very moment of its occurrence, my dog, takes 10 months. It means, but it can take, from eclipse can influence us from 3 weeks to 3 years. But this one will have impact for the next 10 months. Now, another very interesting thing I will tell you. So, when this is happening on this particular day, all these rules which I gave you, when the eclipse is happening in this way as now, then the reign of the king will become long. The reign of the king will become long. Enemies will attack the king, but downfall will happen. So if we take importance of Russia, if we speak about the king or the contemporary president of Russia, of course, then I don't think this eclipse will create on him disaster, but certainly there will be attempts to break him down, but there will be a downfall. It means they will not succeed. And listen, it's really very interesting. Dynasty of Westland ends because the center of the eclipse is Elam, which means Russia. Very serious. Look, I am not even looking to tell you because this is very important, but of course, in which countries the eclipse is visible. Some countries from America, Europe, eclipse will be visible. But even when the eclipse is not visible in certain country, it has still astronomical significance and brings events. This is for sure. So, so dynasty of Westland ends. Westland of who? Of Elam, because Elam is the center. And I was opened Google simply, and I wrote, which are the countries west of Russia. So Russia is bordered in the west by Norway, Finland, Estonia, Lithuania, and Poland, and Ukraine. So these countries somehow will be weakened. We know about Ukraine. This eclipse is not good for them. I even made a previous video, and this eclipse is not good for them. Certainly not. I don't wish anybody to suffer these war conditions, but I'm just telling you, reading from the ominous text, which I have translations from Babylonian cuneiform texts. Now, of course, let's see how things develop, but certainly this eclipse will have impact on the world economy, on the hostilities happening in the world which we know about. So this is the thing. We, of course, eclipse like this, we may bring some natural disasters, very, very possibly. This depends more on the trajectory of the eclipse, which lands, which geographical positions will be darkened. This I didn't look at because I've been looking very seriously at the omens from Babylon, but certainly there where the shadow of eclipse goes, people may suffer a certain, unfortunately, unnatural disasters. This is very possible, and it will be intense. But this is the last eclipse of this series. So what I want to tell you, remember the good thing. Jupiter and Venus make good harmonious aspect to the eclipsed positions in the chart, meaning the evil will be destroyed. Whatever those that try to do on us again, they're desperate and their efforts will not succeed. Let them try. Be very strong, be fearless. I don't advise you to sit and watch the eclipse. In some territories, it will be very, very visible. But use it for good, because it will be a portal to open and bring us revealed truth like never before. We live in very interesting times of seeing the truth, awakening. So it will be for sure very, very interesting. And yeah, be fearless. I don't like to say this new age thing, be positive, be positive. You will be positive if you feel fearless. So, ladies and gentlemen, see you very soon. All the best.